Hey, what's going on, guys? So my name is Thomas Manning. I'm a lifelong New York citizen, as you can tell from my New York Yankees toboggan and my shirt that has a city that is totally New York City and not Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
So we're here giving you our review for Martin Scorsese's 2002 picture. It was Gangs of New York. So we're spending the summer catching up on some of the classics. Scorsese, your Francis Ford Coppola, your Tarantino. So this time we're looking at Gangs of New York. I'm here with Mr. Bill the Butcher himself. What do you have to say?
Hey, Noel T. Man II here, hanging out with this crazy guy. Of course, no relation.
No relation.
Thinking about rethinking this movie that during the 75th Academy Awards, this was nominated for 10 awards, 10 Oscars, received 0. The only other films to do worse than that at the Oscars, The Color Purple and The Turning Point, both of those had 11 nominations with 0 Oscars. But when you look at awards season, this film, Thomas, really did incredibly well. It did get 2 Golden Globes, and if you look at the Critics Awards, this movie was absolutely phenomenal with the critics. And, you know, when you look at the cast and crew in this, it's incredible. Dante Ferretti did the production design, and when you look at the awards across the board, he did pretty solid in the other awards category. Daniel Day-Lewis. Who else in this movie?
You got Daniel Day-Lewis, of course. You got Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the biggest names in Hollywood of the past 2 decades, really. Cameron Diaz. You got Jim Broadbent, John C. Reilly, Henry Thomas, the little kid from E.T. He's grown up now. He's even a lot older, of course, 17 years later after this. But yeah, Henry Thomas. Liam Neeson had a small role. Brendan Gleeson. The names just go on and on. Music, you've got Howard Shore, who's famous, of course, for Lord of the Rings trilogy as well as the Hobbit trilogy. He had an awesome score. He had kind of Irish jigs. You've also got the colonial British music, and you've got just the majestic string section. You got everything.
Yeah, and this movie really was absolutely amazing to watch on the big screen. And Thomas didn't get a chance to watch it on the big screen, not in theaters, but you did get a chance to watch it at home for the first time. I remember seeing it and just being blown away by the spectacle of what I saw. And when I think about Scorsese, I think about spectacle in a good way, because he does such amazing work and he brings every element of filmmaking together, from the direction, of course, but we've already talked about the production design, the art design, the costumes in this film. Sandy Powell.
Sandy Powell, of course, who was nominated last year for The Favorite, nominated for an Oscar. She's also worked on Mary Poppins Returns. She worked on Cinderella a few years ago in 2015. She's worked with Scorsese many times throughout his career, so she's been around for a long time. Very ornate costumes. You got the flowy dresses. You've got the top hats and the very ornate, the buttoned up, all the crazy costumes the men wore in that time. That I'm glad I didn't have dress like that.
Crazy costumes?
Yeah.
That's what they wore. They weren't costumes in that time, man. That's what they wore. They're going to look at you like 20 years from now, like, yeah, they wore those crazy costumes, stuff.
well, just looking back at it now, it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't have to put on that stuff each and every day. Imagine all those buttons you had to do. I'm glad I wasn't a tailor back then either. So, just all of that, and then the editing and the cinematography, the way they filmed it, you had just these huge, like, scene-setting shots. Probably one of the most iconic sequences was the very opening of the film. You had just these 2 huge gangs coming at each other in the middle of New York. It's at, like, I think it's called the
5 Points.
The 5 Points, the intersection of 5 Points. And all of them just come together. It's just like a mass. It's almost like a Lord of the Rings battle in New York with just your fists and your knives and your baseball bats.
One of the things you were talking about, Thomas, was it's very similar to another film that's got this huge fight scene in the city streets as well.
If you look at 2012's The Dark Knight Rises from the director Christopher Nolan, this was, of course, the 3rd film in the Dark Knight trilogy. And you've got Bane, the mercenary, who's taken over Gotham, and he's got his mercenary army going against the police army, and they're just going at it in the street. It's just like what we saw in the opening of this from Scorsese's picture. You've got Bill the Butcher on one side just going against it. Bill the Butcher himself. He's going at it. He's hacking people in the back with all of his butcher stuff. He's, slashing people across the chest. Then you've got Liam Neeson, the priest character, who, I don't know if a priest would be doing this, if we're being honest. And
fighting the fight, I guess.
He's kind of beating people with the club, and you just see these kind of POV shots of them just coming toward the camera before they eventually meet up you look at The Dark Knight Rises, the very same thing happened in that. You had Bane going through and knocking people out. You had Batman going through and knocking people out before they meet up. And it was just really interesting to see those parallels. Personally, I saw The Dark Knight Rises before I saw this. So this was my first time watching Gangs of New York. And when I watched this, I was like, oh, so that's where Christopher Nolan got that idea from. And it really, it blows me away how I just love seeing when directors pay homage to other directors that way.
And we really haven't talked about Daniel Day-Lewis. And Daniel Day-Lewis is spectacular in anything that he does ever. And he is probably one of the most prolifically successful actors I think I've ever seen. And while he's not done, tons of films, we don't see Daniel Day-Lewis every single year doing stuff. But when we see him, we know it. And when we see him, it is always an experience.
Oh, he is fully 100% committed to everything he does. He's what you call a method actor. He will do whatever he needs to do to make sure he gives his best performance. In this, he became a psychopath. It kind of scares me. I don't know that I want to meet him in real life after seeing this. But the way he was written, he was a psychopath that actually thought he was right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He thought he was a patriot. He thought he was fighting for his faith, his family, his heritage.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to kind of see those layers to his character. He wasn't just evil for the sake of it.
Yeah.
He was evil because he thought he was right.
Right. He had motivation, and I think that's what's, to me, amazing when you're able to go back and look at these films that represent history, a slice of history, to see characters that you would look at today and you would say, you got to put that person either in prison or you got to put them in some place to examine what's going on with them. But here, it felt like he was a normal fabric of what was happening within that community.
Oh yeah, he was kind of your behind the scenes gangster, kind of controlling everything, but a lot of people respected him out of fear, but they also respected that he kind of has these sorts of principles and ideals, and you're like, okay, well, these people on this side respect him for that, and he respects the other people on the other side for that, and they kind of shared that. The only thing is the way they approach those ideals are completely different, and he rules out of fear but also out of some genuine respect as well.
But that's how it is in war. That's how it always is in war, and whenever there are divisions, each side feels that they are right, and while you may have some, especially the leaders, that will have respect for some of the others on the other side for what they may believe in and whether they don't believe in it or not, I think it's just an amazing example of, as I said, what we see in history and what we continue to see unfolding across the world today. I mean, while this is Gangs of New York and it's these battles in the streets, you pull this out and put it into another place and time, change the nationalities, you change the situations, and it could still be quite as relevant today.
It's the same core themes, the same core ideas. It's just told in a different way, and that's the way storytelling is, that we keep seeing different ways of the same stories being told, and it's the way that storytellers are able to tell them differently is what makes them special.
Yep, I agree. Love the film. For me, revisiting it, here we are with reviews from the vault, basically. Still a solid A+ rating for me across the board on so many different levels and layers.
Yeah, I'm right below him at a solid A. Some of the storytelling, it is a bit clunky at times. You can see there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different plot threads, a lot of different characters. But if you're fully committed, you can really get everything out of it that you need to.
You gotta pay attention.
Yeah, so you can't just zone out for a scene. You gotta be 100% committed.
So as we're wrapping things up, Thomas, you have any final thoughts, final comments?
Oh, I was just so incredibly impacted by the job that Daniel Day-Lewis in this film, but I'd like to ask Mr. Bill the Butcher himself, what do you think about Daniel Day-Lewis? Have you ever come into contact with him?
Yeah, I actually had a chance to work with Daniel Day-Lewis on the film Last of the Mohicans. I was working with the assistant directors during that film, shot all over North Carolina. And it's a period piece, and Daniel Day-Lewis really embraced the living, the physicality, the lifestyle of anybody living in 1757, early United States, even before it became the United States. And you saw this kind of frontier lifestyle unfold, and as you're watching him act, you truly felt like you were watching this guy living off the land. And Daniel Day-Lewis, you talked about the method actor, and I say he truly embraces and immerses himself into any role. And the amount of work behind the scenes he did to physically prepare for that role, Hawkeye and Last of the Mohicans, he can do that with any role that he's in.
Well, thank you for sharing that bit of your personal history with us, Mr. Bill the Butcher. No, he's an old man. He's not really Bill the Butcher.
No relation.
But yeah, no relation at all. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in to this review. If you enjoyed, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want more reviews like this. We'll do all sorts of movie reviews. We got new reviews from the vault. Probably keep reviewing some Scorsese films this summer, so to get prepared for The Irishman later this year. So once again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.